protecting Main Street from Wall Street. It's time for Money Unleashed with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allyn.
You have to have a plan where you know if the market's going to go up, what happens next. And you also have to have a plan where if it doesn't go the way you think, you know what you're going to do.
It's time to put you back in control of your money.
I'm not trying to predict the weather, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? It's predicting the stock market. I'm trying to build a better boat.
This is Money Unleashed with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allyn.
Welcome to the Money Unleashed podcast, powered by Hoffman Financial Group. I'm Eric Johnson. Joining me as always is Mr. Kyle Allyn. We are the vice presidents of Hoffman Financial Group. You can hear us each Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on 95.5 WSB and catch new episodes of the podcast each Friday. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Kyle, how you doing this weekend, man?
Man, I got a question for you. Are you a turkey guy or are you a ham guy?
Turkey, 110%.
Ooh,
what about you?
I'm on the turkey train.
All right, so I like to judge people by the sides.
Okay.
What's your favorite side?
Ooh, I like broccoli casserole.
What in the world? Broccoli casserole?
I do.
Goodness, you just blew my mind with that.
My grandmother used to make it, and it reminds me of family. And I heard this one time, this is interesting. The idea was that Thanksgiving, the food is not as good as you think, because if it is, why don't we eat it the rest of the year?
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. But I'll say, at this time of the year, when it's, the weather's changing, the football's on, it doesn't matter what casserole, you got to get a good casserole. You got to get some turkey. What a great time of year.
You got to throw it all together. I'm a cornbread dressing guy myself. I think that's the definition of a good Southern turkey day. But, also the sandwiches. I mean, the sandwich afterwards, it needs to be a monstrosity. It's like the bread is just basically a base, and it's got to be like the size of my head, and you might have to use a knife and fork. Like, detach your jaw to eat that.
Yeah, I'm not a judgmental guy, but I am a little judgmental on how you set that sandwich up, right? Like, there's some art to that.
Yes.
And you've got to get a little creative, a little Picasso with
You can't just throw
sandwich.
it all in at once. Like, you got to get like a good mashed potato base, and then maybe some, dressing underneath that. And okay. But, long and the short of it is I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving.
That's right.
And you ate mounds of food. But guess what? The market's still rolling and your retirement's still creeping, and we got to attack and save everybody from Wall Street. So we're going to hop into a lot of great stuff today. I want to talk about something that's pretty important. We just saw the S&P 500 touch 6,000, which is monumental. And in 2023, S&P 500 was up 24.3%. That's astronomically big. If you look at the average of S&P 500, you're going to get about 9% a year. We see a lot of predictions, right, at the beginning of every year about what's going to happen. It's like Miss Cleo's popping out telling us what's going to be the next leg up. And a lot of these big banks, Kyle, they typically get it wrong, don't they?
Yeah, and I think it's important for clients to understand this, because if you're out there and you're not looking at the market every day, well, coming soon in January, you're going to see the banks drop a prediction. Yep. Well, if we look backwards, right, history teaches us things. Well, when we look backwards to January of this year, you can see that the banks were talking about kind of 4,500 to 4,800. They didn't really language that the market would be in this place that it's in. They didn't come out and have the courage to say the 20% rally is not only going to continue, it's going to do it again. Yeah. And so we've seen this amazing year in the stock market. And I think it's important to remember that timing the market, picking the numbers is not only hard, but even those that are paid a lot of money to do it, get it wrong.
Here's a lesson that my grandfather told me, because he's an old school investment advisor. It's you can't time the market, you need time in it.
That's right.
Right? And that's critical, because everyone comes in and thinks it's like a slot machine. You stick $5 in there and all of a sudden $8 million of Bitcoin pops out. That's not how this game works. You have to do a lot of the disciplines properly over time, and that's how you accumulate wealth. But it's funny because the low in March of 2020 was 2,200, wasn't it?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, which means it's up 2.5 times where it was from there when we were dealing with COVID. So it's interesting because we talk about this all the time. When you have drawdowns in the market, that hurts short term, but the gains are permanent, right?
One of the things I talk to my clients a lot about is this idea of time.
Yeah.
So let's say you're 60. I'm going to kill you at 90. So for some of the listeners, you're like, I'm excited, I made it to 90. For other listeners, you're like, wow, you cut me short. But let's just do it for math. You're 60 years old, you're going to live to 90. So you've got 3 decades coming. Well, we've all seen the Bill Murray movie, Groundhog Day, right? He wakes up every day and he replays that day over and over and over, and it just continues. Well, imagine if every decade for the next 3 was the same awful decade from the early 2000s, the worst decade where the market just was awful.
Right.
Well, that means of the 30 years left in your life, 21 of them will be green.
Okay.
9 of them would be red, and 3 of them would be detrimental red. And if you're a traditional retiree with a 60-40 portfolio, you're not even going to lose 20%. So this fear of the numbers, this fear of the market, these moments like COVID that we're all trying to predict and trying to figure out, I just would say, and you used the right word, they don't matter. It's about discipline. Do you have the discipline, or have you hired someone to help you have the discipline to be able to navigate the next 30, 40 years in this market?
And you know what? Time is a big problem with this because, oftentimes we deal with retirement planning, and there's a lot of advisors out there that do, but when you're dealing with retirement planning, you're dealing with people, the market might not be the enemy. The administration might not be the enemy.
But it feels like it is, right?
But time is the real enemy. And, when you don't feel like you have time, it's like my wife trying to pick up the kids at school. If she leaves late, she feels the pressure. Well, it's like the same type of pressure except magnified when you're dealing with your retirement. And when you have more time to be more aggressive. Now, for people who choose not to be so aggressive, and then all of a sudden they run up against the time backboard that we're talking about, and then they need to be more aggressive, that can also be a problem on the other side. So how you deal with the time and how you deal with growing your money is critical to have a successful retirement, which is why we always talk about the retirement red zone, right? So in the spirit of it being fall and Thanksgiving and football season, the retirement red zone's the 5 years before and sometimes the 5 years after you getting ready to retire. You need to have a proper plan put into place so you are able to execute and figure out, okay, how am I doing? Like, what do I need to do for the next 5 years to hit this certain number that's in my head that I think I need to retire properly? And then incidentally, after you retire, those are also the most important 5 years of your life because you're not working any longer and there's no income backboard that you have coming in. So it's very critical that you've got a proper plan put into place. And what does that involve? That involves income. Growth is always going to be part of it too, but income is going to be the crown jewel of your retirement plan because it's up to you to take what you've saved and implement an income plan. And we do that for people all the time. We call that replace your paycheck challenge. People come in and then we have to replace your paycheck with what you've developed and also include, any sort of pensions if you're blessed enough to have one and Social Security. And that's what becomes your main focus in retirement, which most people don't get because they all come in here and it's always growth, 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 growth. Well, that becomes a secondary and sometimes tertiary want and need because you have a lifestyle you want to keep up. So, how important is it to have your income taken care of before you get ready for retirement?
That's right. It's everything. So this debate of will the market go to this number or that number, you can ignore that. I mean, I think a lot of people would be surprised to learn that as a financial advisor, I don't look at the market every day. Now, I've got it up in front of me, so it's always around, but the daily moves of the market, even sometimes the monthly moves of the market or the weekly moves of the market are secondary. I like the way you said that. They're secondary to that income plan, right? If you've built a great income plan, if you've looked at the tax filings and the way at which the taxes are going to play into that income and you've built a system that is going to send you a paycheck, right? You said it exactly, replace your paycheck, then ignore the market.
That's right.
Like, who wants to sit around and stare at the stock market? Not even me.
Well, some people do, and you don't want to take that zeal away from them. However, it's a fast way to drive yourself nuts.
That's right.
One of the problems that I see a lot of people come in and they're watching it every single day, money's an emotional game. That's why we get hired to take the emotion out of the money piece for people. And just because something happens on Monday doesn't mean that's going to be the result on Friday. So overwatching the market can be a problem, but also not paying enough attention to it can also be a problem too, which is why it's so important to have an investment advisor have your back in retirement because you know that they're the ones watching it and paying attention to what's going on. And then also you got the news, right? The news is something you can't predict either. And that's constantly changing the outcomes of these predictions from the banks, yes?
And let me give you something. I did a little research because I was thinking about this idea of time, and that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Right.
Let me give you some crazy ones. So in 2013, you had a debt downgrade. In 2014, you have a government shutdown. In 2016, you had the first time that the Dow lost 1,000 points. In 18, you had Brexit. In 19, you had a bear market discussion. In 20, we had COVID. In 21, we had inflation. In 22, Russia invaded Ukraine. In 23, Silicon Valley Bank failed. And in 2024, we had the yen carry trade.
Anything else?
I mean,
anything else?
You will drive yourself bonkers.
Well, there's always a reason to sell. Like if you're looking for a reason to sell, guess what? You're going to find it. You're going to find a reason to sell.
Which wouldn't you say that what we do is give you a reason to succeed?
I would argue that, yes. I would say even the past year and a half when the market's been crawling out of this bear market back into a bull market, now I have people coming and tell me they think it's going to crash again. And I'm like, wait a second, guys. I'm a perma bull, right? Bulls make more money than bears. You just said 21 years have been up and 8 would have been down. bulls make more money than bears. Why is that? Because a bull market typically lasts anywhere from 4 to 6 years on a typical manner, and a bear market usually lasts between 2 or 3. This last one just lasted 2. So that tells you that we probably have a runway of a few years to continue to watch the S&P 500 appreciate. Obviously, barring any sort of crazy geopolitical happenings that could arise. It's just a way of saying it's super important to stay invested and don't get scared out of stocks. That is the key. The key is staying in the stock market because, yes, you're going to have temporary downs, but the ups tend to continue to stay there. They continue to keep going up. So you want to make sure that you're not missing out on that.
And here's how we help you with that. To be able to stay in the market, we need to help you with your fear. And to be able to navigate your fear, we can interject a lot of logic. And the way we do it specifically is we're able to break down what's in your accounts, right? So if someone calls in, we're able to go inside the accounts, do a quantitative analysis, do a Morningstar report, and walk you through, okay, if we're wrong and the market falls apart, here's where your portfolio is going to be. If we're right and the market fires forward and is very prosperous, here's where you're going to be. Not only that, here's the fees that you're currently paying. Here's the things inside of your portfolio that are broken, right? I tell people often, I'm not trying to predict the market. I'm trying to help you clean out the things that are broken that you currently hold in your portfolio.
Right. And a lot of things you're going to have a lot of the right things in your portfolio, but you need to trim the fat. But you want to build around it and build a more efficient portfolio that's going to be working for you in the ups and the downs in the market. And guess what, everybody? That's what we specifically do for folks. If this sounds like you and you don't have a full financial plan just yet, I'm going to do something for the listeners today because you need to have a full financial plan. Let Hoffman Financial Group design this plan for you. It's the income plan we just talked about. It's having a portfolio x-ray to figure out where you are in retirement. It's figuring out what income needs are you going to need in retirement and how do you want to grow it in retirement too. We do this at no cost, and we're going to do this today for the first 10 callers. Give us a call at 404-341-6767. That's 404-341-6767, or you can check us out online on unleashyourmoney.com.
Eric Johnson and Kyle Allyn are investment advisor representatives of Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor and affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and Hoffman Financial Group are affiliated under common ownership. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interest of our clients and to make full disclosures of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A, page 4, for additional information. The Hoffman Financial Group and WSB are not affiliated. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. This information should not be considered tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a professional specializing in the field of tax, legal, accounting, or investments regarding the applicability of this information for their situation. Any client experiences discussed during the show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments will fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone. Index or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A, item 4, for additional information. Hoffman Financial Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Insurance licensed in Georgia, number 163546.